65-24, that was the score for Tennessee over UT Martin. It was a 7-7 tie early in the first quarter. Then it was all Vols. The big takeaways. And what's this mean moving forward for the 7-0 Volunteers? That's your Monday Locked On Vols.
You are Locked On Vols, your daily podcast on the Tennessee Volunteers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, everybody? Welcome into it. This is Locked On Vols, your go-to Tennessee Volunteers podcast each and every day. It is a part of the Locked On Podcast Network. That is your team every single day. I'm your host, Eric Kane. So glad to have you guys here with me here today. And want to give a shout out to Sling TV. Don't miss this week's matchup between, of course, Tennessee and Kentucky right here on Sling TV. It's TV you love for the price that you'll love. You can go ahead and try it today if you haven't already. All right, so let's get into it. Tennessee, 24 points given up in this football game, scored 65, and this was an FCS opponent to where Tennessee, obviously, there was no doubt about it. Tennessee was going to win this football game. It was going to be easy money. Real quick before I go any further, Twitter Tuesday, your mailbag questions, anything you guys have, comments, concerns, @_Kaner, @Locked On Vols, get them in there for me. If you don't mind, we'll spend tomorrow's episode going over that. But big takeaways from Tennessee over UT Martin. It was a nice breather. Of course, Tennessee needed this breather in this football game, of course, because, a lot of times in the SEC schedule, it's kind of like going through the gauntlet, right? You go, Florida, Georgia, Alabama, Kentucky, team from the West that's hot that year, whatever the case may be. But this year, you kind of have some of those built-in breathers, which has been really nice. Now, you're gearing up for the final 5 games left in the regular season. It's going to be a tough stretch. Sure, you've got Missouri and Vanderbilt in that window. You got Kentucky, then you got Georgia, of course, as well. You got South Carolina there as well. So they're not all going to be gimmies, and certainly these next two are going to be very, very challenging. Don't get me wrong with Tennessee, Kentucky, and then Georgia. But this was good for Tennessee to get a lot of young guys in there, get some reps in, and get the starters in and out by, a couple of different drives in the second quarter. So my big takeaways, biggest thing right out of the gate, no injuries. Sure, Elijah Simmons got beat up just a little bit there towards the end of the football game. He was walking off and not putting hardly any weight on his right leg. We'll see, what he looks like throughout the season, throughout the week. And you had Brandon Turnage that went down early in the first quarter, but as the TV report said, that it looks like he'd be just fine, for next week. That was very much of a precautionary, which is a good thing. He was on the sideline and looking okay, but Tennessee got out of there injury-free, which was huge. You didn't want a repeat of what happened with Cedric Tillman against Akron, where he is still not back on the playing field. I think Cedric could have probably went yesterday. We'll see. I think everybody's anticipating he will make a return for the Kentucky game, but there was just no sense in playing him here, right? I mean, there was absolutely no sense in playing him in this football game. In fact, along with Cedric Tillman, left tackle Gerald Mincey didn't play in this football game. Jalen McCullough didn't play in this football game. And of course, that's kind of a different situation because that's something legal. Cornerback Christian Charles didn't play. Cornerback Kamal Haddon didn't play. Linebacker Juwan Mitchell didn't play. Linebacker Pat Garland. All those guys were inactives for this football game. And, that just means you continuing to rest, recover, no sense at all in putting them out there on this field. But there was absolutely no injuries of concern, big long-term, in my opinion, outside of potentially Elijah Simmons. And again, we'll see what's going on there. So that was good. There was no love loss between Jason Simpson and Josh Heupel. Obviously, the recruitment of Ty Simpson, it was very much Jeremy Pruitt. Jeremy Pruitt gets ousted. Josh Heupel comes in. They hear him out a little bit. I'm not sure how much they did hear out the new staff. Again, I wasn't on there. I wasn't privy to those phone conversations. I don't know. But obviously, there was, they knew each other. And maybe that was the reason why Josh Heupel ran a trick play late in the second quarter with a tight end throwing a touchdown pass to Jalin Hyatt, who could very well easily be in the Heisman conversation himself as well. Maybe that's why Gaston Moore took a shot to the end zone at the very end of the football game when Tennessee's leading 65-24. Hey, I don't have a big issue with it if it is your reserves like Gaston Moore. Gaston Moore practices every single day. Take a shot to the end zone. You deserve it. And again, it was the first half, that trick play. So overall, I cover high school football for Rivalry Thursday on Thursday nights. And, every single year I hear a lot of fans or coaches complaining, they're running up the score. They're running up the score. Well, if your starters are in the football game deep into the second half and you're running up to the score, then Okay, I hear you. But if those backups are in there doing it, those guys practice each and every day, right? They deserve to get the chance to go out and run the offense. Tennessee's backups did not play nearly as well as its starters did, obviously, in this football game, but still, they scored a couple touchdowns. They did some things, okay? So I don't have a huge issue there, but I thought it was kind of funny. The handshake after the game was just very limited. Walked up, quick little handshake, pat, and then move on. They weren't sitting there talking. I don't know. I thought those play calls were kind of funny there, and Tennessee certainly stuck it to UT Martin. There's no doubt about it. You look at a couple other things that stood out to me big time. Tennessee padded its stats, okay? It got in, it got out, it got nobody hurt, which was huge. But you look at Hendon Hooker, his day, 18 of 24, 276 yards, 3 touchdowns. You're padding your Heisman stats, and he didn't even complete the second quarter. That's good. Jalin Hyatt, 7 receptions, 174 yards, 2 touchdowns. He is padding his Biletnikoff Award stats potentially, and he only played a half of football. So I thought that was huge. I thought you got in there, you accomplished some things, but you didn't stay in there too long to look like you were just padding stats and making it look, kind of a bad look moving forward. So I thought that was noteworthy. You had you played a ton of young players. That was good, obviously, for the developmental men of this football team. You rested all those players that I said that didn't even play. And on Sunday, Tennessee remained at number 3 in the AP poll. Lost a couple of first place votes, of course, but that's a given when you play an FCS team. But lost a couple of first place votes, remained at number 3 in the AP, and then on the coaches poll, Tennessee actually moved up one spot from number 4 to number 3. So that was noteworthy there. Last 2 points I want to make here in segment number 1. Again, this is not necessarily UT Martin game related. There's just, what more can you say on a Monday after Tennessee demolishes an FCS opponent, right? Job well done. A lot of you guys listening, a lot of you guys watching took part in helping UT Martin offensive lineman after his family home was destroyed by Hurricane Ian. His name is AJ Marquez. He set the goal on a GoFundMe for $1 and said he'd be pleased with just anything that he had. As of, I think it was Thursday, had $18,000 raised. By kickoff on Saturday, Tennessee fans had generated more than $70,000 by Saturday afternoon's kickoff. So job well done. That is really good stuff. I mean, that is helping a young man, obviously playing football in the UT system. I get that, but still, it's not one of your own, right? So that is a job well done. If anybody listening or watching contributed, congrats. That's some good stuff. And I think you can still contribute as well if you go to GoFundMe and just type in AJ Marquez. I think you can still find that there. One other thing. This has absolutely nothing to do with the Tennessee football program, but I guess a little bit. We all saw the video. A lot of you guys have DM'd me and tweeted me and saying, why aren't you talking about this? Why aren't you talking about this? I was going to kind of let it simmer to see what exactly happened with Jermaine Burton in Alabama if he played against Mississippi State. He did. Nick Saban was asked post-game why you elected to play him. Why is he not suspended? I should have played this audio, but I didn't today because I knew we'd be busy. But essentially, Nick Saban goes out there and says, I talked to him. I didn't think he deserved to be suspended. He's in counseling. It's not anger management. He was scared. I was scared. There's people rushing the field. Okay. Nothing. I mean, everybody saw the video, right? I'm not sitting here trying to sit on a high horse and commend anybody or condemn anybody, but that's inexcusable, what happened there. People rushing the field, sure. You know who else rushed the field? Clemson rushed the field yesterday. You know who else rushed the field? There was another one. LSU rushed the field yesterday. That happens. That's college football, okay? Nick Saban, you have 20 state troopers by your side, okay? That's exaggeration. At SEC Media Days you do, but on the field after a football game, you have 4 state troopers escorting you to go and shake the opposing head coach's hand. You have 4 state troopers escorting you to the locker room. You have 4 state troopers escorting you to do your post-game interview after a win, okay? For you to say I was scared, get out of here. That's so weak, man. That is so weak. For you to allow Jermaine Burton to play in this football game, for you to allow, and there may be punishment behind the scenes, whatever the case may be, but the fact that there's no suspension, the fact that there's no public comment, the fact that there's no apology about I think, if memory serves me correct, I think there's 2 different videos of him kind of pushing or shoving or whatever the case may be of a UT student after the football game. The one I'm referencing was a female that did nothing wrong. The fact that there's no public apology from you, Nick Saban, from the Alabama program, from Greg Sankey of the SEC office, that's pathetic. And this is not Eric Kane who covers Tennessee. This is not Eric Kane with orange shaded sunglasses on. You guys know me. I'm very, very, very right down the middle, and I say it. I call it like I see it. That's pathetic. That is absolutely pathetic. Nick Saban is a smart man. A lot of you guys on social media got mad at me for a tweet I sent out Saturday night saying Nick Saban's a smart man. Hey, news to you. Smartest man in college football, Nick Saban. That's what he is. He knew that question would be asked in postgame, and for that to be the comment that he had, his excuse, if you will, it's pathetic. It's absolutely pathetic. It was sad to see Jermaine Burton playing in that football game for Alabama against Mississippi State. Now, this is a Tennessee Volunteers podcast. We're going to get back to it, but a lot of you guys asked me to say a comment on that. There's my comment. I wanted to see if Jermaine Burton was going to play in the football game. Obviously, he did, and that is just pathetic. I'm not saying lock him up. I'm not saying kick him off the team forever. I'm not saying he should never play football again, but that was pathetic. That was absolutely pathetic. All right, scoring plays from Tennessee's 65-24 win over UT Martin. That is coming up next right here on Locked On Vols. But first, I'll remind you guys about Nissan. Our partners over at Nissan, they've worked with us to create a new segment across the Locked On College Network titled Thrilling Moments, where we highlight the most exciting play from the Vols game from the past weekend or throughout the history of the program. This week's thrilling moments comes from, well, you guys know what it is. It is the double pass from Joe Milton. First series in, Joe Milton relieves Hendon Hooker, comes in, he throws a little screen pass out to Princeton Fant, who takes the football, throws it downfield to Jalin Hyatt, all by him lonesome. He is so wide open that Jalin Hyatt nearly fumbles that football, bobbles it around a little bit, and nearly doesn't bring it in. That is the thrilling play of the weekend from Tennessee over UT Martin, brought to you by our friends over at Nissan. Thrilling moments. Nissan is fantastic, and I love doing this spot every single Monday to highlight one of those fantastic plays from Tennessee's win. Again, this spot's inspired by the thrilling new designs featured across Nissan. It's a new lineup of vehicles. Pursue what thrills you in all new Frontier, Pathfinder today. All those available at NissanUSA.com. All right, boys and girls, welcome back into it. This is Locked On Vols, your Monday edition, following a Tennessee 65-24 winner over UT Martin. The Volunteers are 7-0 for the first time, obviously, since 1998. When it ran the table and was undefeated. And now Tennessee's looking to prepare to get back in SEC play in a big showdown against a solid football team in Kentucky. If Tennessee plays the way it's been playing so far this season, especially offensively, Tennessee should run away with that football game. But if Tennessee comes out and makes mistakes and beats itself and has a bunch of penalties, then Tennessee could be in for a dogfight. But, you know, the Volunteers, for the most part this year, they give me no reason to say that that's what I expect to happen on Saturday. I expect Tennessee to beat Kentucky. But let's continue back to look at the UT Martin football game. And something I like to do every single Monday right here on Locked On Vols is play the scoring plays, courtesy of the Vol Radio Network, written permission from the Vol Radio Network to play the audio of these scoring plays on Locked On Vols podcast, audio, and YouTube platforms. All right, let's get it going. Jabari Small comes in, caps a 9-play, 74-yard drive to get Tennessee on the scoreboard first, 7-0 early in the first quarter.
So now Tennessee right back to the line of scrimmage. Third down and goal inside the Skyhawks 2-yard line. Tries Small again, and this time he gets into the end zone. Touchdown, Tennessee. Jabari Small rushes for his 8th touchdown of the season as Tennessee scores again in its opening drive of this game, and the Volunteers jump out quickly on the Skyhawks 6-0.
You have UT Martin that came back, punched right back, and made it a 7-7 ball game on an end around from Zoe Roberts, capping off an 8-play, 75-yard drive to get in the end zone. And again, that was the only scoring play against the ones for UT Martin in this football game. From there, it was all Tennessee. Princeton Fant, a 1-yard rush, from the offset eye fullback position, the second week in a row. That caps a 56-yard, 8-play drive to make it 14-7 in favor of Tennessee, with 5:59 left in the first quarter.
Hooker under center. Handoff, tailback, and powering to the checkerboards. That's going to be Princeton Fant. He scored a touchdown last week, and Princeton Fant does it again. He's in at a fullback slot. They give it to him, and the former tailback in high school scores a touchdown for Tennessee, and the Volunteers now lead 13-7.
It's an untimed down at the end of the first quarter. It was Ramel Keaton's first touchdown of the game, 8-yard touchdown pass from Hendon Hooker, 77 yards, 13 plays, 3:39 off the clock, and Tennessee led 21-7 at the end of one, thanks to this Romel Keaton touchdown reception.
Hooker out of the shotgun. Play fake, looks over the middle. There's the pass, and it's going to be caught in the end zone for a Tennessee touchdown on that quick slant. Romel Keaton on the slant from the slot and makes the catch, and Tennessee makes it a 20-7 lead as Hendon Hooker now has thrown a touchdown pass in 19 consecutive games, and that sets a new Tennessee record as he passes Heath Shuler.
Chase McGrath added a 40-yard field goal to look much better than his 40-yarder to win the Alabama game. Right after that, 8 plays, 36 yards, a minute 52 off the clock. Just under 11 minutes left in the second quarter. Tennessee led 24-7. Now, Jalin Hyatt, his first of 2 touchdown receptions. This coming from Hendon Hooker. It was a little slip screen pass out there. He was bottled up, but then broke a couple tackles, shot up through the middle, showed a good burst, and Tennessee led by a score of, 31-7 after this 22-yard touchdown pass from Hendon Hooker to Jalin Hyatt.
So it's going to be 2nd down and 1. Tennessee at the UT Martin 22-yard line. Hooker swings the pass out right. That's caught. And breaking a tackle and making a move to the 20, getting to the 10, and all the way to the checkerboards is Jalin Hyatt. He caught the ball at the 22-yard line, had to break a tackle, and then there was nobody there to chase him down as he sprints into the end zone. And Jalin Hyatt gets another Tennessee touchdown, his 11th of the season, and the Vols now lead UT Martin 30-7. What a move by Jalin Hyatt.
A part of a 31-point second quarter for Tennessee's offense, Romel Keaton found the end zone once again. A 17-yard strike on a deep post from Hendon Hooker, capping a 27-yard 4-play drive, 54 seconds off the clock, and Tennessee led 38-7 following the second touchdown of the game from Romel Keaton here in the second quarter.
First down, Tennessee inside the red zone. Hooker fires, end zone. Crank up Rocky Top. Touchdown, Tennessee. Romel Keaton. That time he made a move, a little stutter step at the line of scrimmage, sprinted into the end zone. Nobody was there, 17 yards as Hendon Hooker hits him again. And another touchdown for Tennessee in this first half as the Volunteers continue to pour it on the Skyhawks.
Princeton Fant, his second touchdown of the day, his second rushing touchdown of the day. Again, from the offset eye, he bounces it outside, was untouched. All right, 11-yard touchdown run, 69 yards, 4 plays, a minute 47 off the clock right here in the second quarter. And Tennessee shot up to a 45-7 lead at this point in the football game.
Hooker's going to be under center on third down. Tennessee with a tight formation. Now they send McCoy in motion and hand it back on a counter to the 10, to the 5, and a touchdown. Tennessee, as again, it's Princeton Fant on the little counter play, goes right to left and rushes in from 10 yards out, his second touchdown of the day, and Tennessee now leads 44-7. That was a neat little play.
And third in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And then the most beautiful play of the game, I just spoke about it in the Nissan Thrilling Moments Live just a moment ago, the double pass. Out comes Hendon Hooker, in comes Joe Milton. You got a new left side of the offensive line with Ollie Lane at guard and Dane Davis at left tackle, but you have Joe Milton in the football game with the rest of the starters. He takes the snap, flips it out to Princeton Fant, who takes it and throws it all the way downfield, wide open. Jalin Hyatt, it was supposed to be a Squirrel White in the football game, but he missed his shoe. Jalin Hyatt comes back in, pads his stats even more, and this makes the score 52-7 in favor of Tennessee, and that was the last scoring play of the first half for the Volunteers.
Milton swings the pass out right. They're going to try and throw a pass. Fant launches it downfield to Hyatt. He's got it at the 30. Bobbles it, catches it to the 20, 10, checkerboards. Touchdown, Tennessee. Princeton Fant. He scored a couple of touchdowns, and this time he shows off his arm. Little swing pass to the right, stop, threw the ball downfield, goes 66 yards for a touchdown.
Tennessee comes out and scores on its first possession of the second half. What's different about this one is no starters in the football game, at least for the first-team offense. It was good to see. It's a different ball game now compared to when you were against Akron earlier in the football season against Ball State. Everything you want is right out in front of you, so no starters were in the football game in the second half for the University of Tennessee on offense. Dylan Sampson caps a 5-play, 75-yard drive, a minute 59 off the clock, a 1-yard touchdown plunge from the Tennessee freshman to make it 58-7 in favor of the Big Orange.
So first and goal at the 1. They're going to hand off tailback and getting into the end zone. Straight up the middle is Dylan Sampson on the touchdown run. And Tennessee scores in its opening drive here in the third quarter, and now the lead balloons to 58-7.
UT Martin did score 2 touchdowns between the next Tennessee score. Early in the fourth quarter, Tennessee got back on the board. An absolute bomb from Joe Milton to Squirrel White, 64 yards, capping a 75-yard drive of 3 plays, a minute 29 off the clock. 65-21 was the new score after this bomb from Joe Milton to Squirrel White.
Milton back to throw. Looks that way.
Touchdown.
Fires long. Pass is going to be caught at the 20-yard line to the 10. Touchdown, Tennessee. That's Squirrel White. Good for 64 yards. Pat, you picked it. Squirrel White got in the slot, then cut to the sideline, streaked down this near sideline. Nobody close to him as Squirrel White gets his first Tennessee touchdown, and Tennessee leads 64-21.
UT Martin later added a 30-yard field goal to make it 65-24, but again, obviously not nearly enough. Tennessee does exactly what it's supposed to do: get in, get out, pad some stats, win convincingly, win on homecoming, and get back into the groove of things with SEC play resuming next week against Kentucky. Those are the scoring plays brought to you by Bob Kessling, Pat Ryan, and the Vol Radio Network. Big thanks to them for the permission to use this on Locked On Vols. When we come back, we'll take a look at the stat sheets and the Caner grades right here on Locked On Vols. But I want to relay a story to you about an experience you've had if you've had embarrassing sweat, or maybe someone you know has had this type of stuff. It's from a customer review from Sweat Block. All right, meet Chris. Stuff from excessive underarm sweat for 10 years. He was so worried about sweating through his dress shirts that he started tucking maxi pads into his shirt to soak up that sweat until he found Sweat Block. Sweat Block changed the game for him, and it can change the game for you. Josiah was able to fix his problem with Sweat Block as well, and it's been big for him. It was created by a doctor to help with his own excessive sweating. It's doctor created and doctor recommended. If you or someone you love is experiencing embarrassing sweat or odor, please try Sweat Block. Save 20% with the promo code Locked On. That's at sweatblock.com. It's also available on Amazon. 20% with the promo code Locked On. That's at sweatblock.com. It's also available on Amazon. All right, we got a final segment left here on this Monday edition of Locked On Vols. Appreciate you guys for electing to hang out with me here today. Don't forget Twitter Tuesday. That is coming up on tomorrow's show. Any questions, comments you guys have about the 7-0 Volunteers, recruiting, whatever you got, Twitter Tuesday coming up on tomorrow's show. All right, let's take a look at the stats, and I'm going to give out my Caner grades here for this week. Tennessee 65 points Saturday, the most in a game since September 23rd, 2000, when the Vols scored 70 against Louisiana Monroe. The Vols have scored 60 or more points 2 times this season, 4 times under Josh Heupel. Tennessee has scored 50 or more times 4 times this season, 7 times under Josh Heupel. The Vols have scored 40 or more points 5 times this season, 12 times under Josh Heupel. Tennessee's 52 first half points, the most in any half for the Volunteers in the modern era since 1933, surpassing the previous record of 49 in the first half against Louisiana Monroe in that 2000 game. The 52 points are the most in any half for UT in a game since the Vols scored 53 points in the first half of a 73-0 winner over Carson Newman back on November the 9th, 1929. So lots of things to celebrate in terms of scoring offense, in terms of total offense, entering the game, averaging an FBS 551 yards of total offense per game. Tennessee finished with 696 yards of total offense. That is a Heupel era high and the second most in a single game in school history, back when Tennessee had 718 yards of total offense against Troy on November 3rd, 2012. So I can go on and on and on. There's tons and tons of good stuff here from in terms of Tennessee, the stats, the last time they did that, all that good stuff. But let's go ahead and check out what Tennessee did in this football game. Tennessee had 696 yards of total offense on 83 plays, 8.4 yards averaging per play. Tennessee threw for 495. Tennessee ran for 201 yards. Saw a stat the other day from Cole Kublik. I believe Tennessee has ran for over 200 yards in 13 of like the 19 or 18 games Heupel's been here and been head coach. That is a remarkable stat as well. You had UT Martin that, again, was down from the get-go. They abandoned the run. They were throwing pretty much every play. Tennessee had its top 3 cornerbacks not even suited up. lost its fourth best cornerback, or maybe fifth best cornerback, Brandon Turnage, early in the first quarter. You were playing a walk-on of William Wright a lot. You're playing Brandon Turnage a little bit. You're playing Deshaun Rucker. You're playing Christian Harrison. You're playing some other walk-ons. I mean, it just kind of is what it is. But still, UT Martin was able to accumulate 392 yards of total offense, 316 yards through the air. They ran for 76 yards. Tennessee continues to be really good against the run on 29 attempts in that football game. Tennessee was 15 of 20 on third down conversions. Really good for the Volunteers. Tennessee was 6 of 7 in the red zone. Tennessee accumulated 2 sacks, forced 2 turnovers, and scored twice off those 2 turnovers did the University of Tennessee. All right, let's check these individual stats, shall we? Hendon Hooker, padding that Heisman campaign, 18 of 24, 276 yards, 3 touchdowns on just 2.5, or really just a quarter and a half of play. Joe Milton thought it looked a little sloppy, 4 of 7, 135 yards and a touchdown. Gaston Moore was 2 of 3 for 9 yards, and of course threw that interception right at the very end of the football game. Taven Jackson was 1 of 2 when he got in the football game. Also on injuries, he kind of went down towards the end of the game, was grabbing his collarbone, so you hope that's nothing serious there for the freshman quarterback, but he was 1 of 2 for 9 yards. And then Princeton Fant, the one throw he makes is a 66-yard touchdown off the double pass of Jalin Hyatt. He looked really, really good. Dresser Wen, quarterback for UT Martin, 26 of 45, 2 touchdowns, 301 yards, and did have an interception running the football for UT Martin. Zach Wallace, 35 yards on the ground. Sam Franklin, 30 yards on the ground. Jordan Castleberry, Cornelius Brown, who was the backup quarterback, he had 6 yards on the ground. Castleberry had 18 yards on the ground. Tennessee's Dylan Sampson had 62 yards on the ground, averaging 4.8 yards a carry. Jabari Small, 33 yards on the ground with a touchdown. Dylan Sampson scored as well. Jabari Small averaged 3 yards off 11 carries. Hendon Hooker, 28 yards on the ground. Joe Milton, 23 yards on the ground. Jalen Wright, 19 yards on the ground on only 6 carries. Princeton Fant, 12 yards on the ground off 2 carries, 2 touchdowns, averaging 6 yards per carry. That's pretty good. Justin Williams-Thomas, 9 yards on the ground off 3 carries. Taven Jackson gained 9 yards off 2 carries. And Patrick Wilk, walk-on running back, had 6 yards off 2 carries there at the end. Receiving for Tennessee, Jalin Hyatt targeted 7 times, caught 7 passes, 174 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Not a bad day at the offense. He continues to pad those stats. Squirrel White, targeted 6 times, hauled in 5 catches, 122 yards, and a touchdown. Romel Keaton, targeted 7 times, caught 5 passes, 77 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Thought that was really good. Colton Dowell was the go-to guy for UT Martin this football game. He had over 100 yards receiving at 112, 13 targets, 7 receptions in that football game. EJ Smoot had a big second half, 88 yards on 7 receptions. But George Qualls had 2 second half touchdowns off 66 yards receiving in this football game. Special teams, kind of a mixed bag. He had a couple really nice returns from D. Williams in the return game. He had 4 returns for 49 yards. He had a long of 33. Punting was pathetic on the day. Paxton Brooks shanked 1, did not hit a good one the second time. 2 punts for Paxton Brooks. He averaged 28 yards per punt, just not good. Chase McGrath was 1 of 2 on field goals. He drilled the 40-yarder. He missed wide left, just kind of hooked it a little bit on a 46-yarder. So kind of a mixed bag in terms of special teams. And then defensively, I mean, they were rotating like I said they would from the get-go, the absolute get-go. I mean, you had guys rotating in with the defensive line and linebackers all game. I mean, the leading tackler for the football game was Tamari McDonald, Andre Turrentine, and Caleb Perry, each having 4 tackles. Tennessee had 2 sacks on the football game for a loss of 12 yards. One of those sacks coming from Tyree West, who I thought played really well. The other sack coming from Solon Page. Tennessee had 7 QB hurries, which I thought was noteworthy because, again, they were getting the football out quickly, but Tennessee did hit the quarterback a lot. And then TFLs, Tennessee only had 5 TFLs, but again, they kind of abandoned the run there a lot in this football game, so not a whole lot of opportunities in that regard, but 2 TFLs from Solon Page. Again, a pretty decent day from him. Tyree West had a TFL. You had a half a TFL from Dejon Terry, half a TFL from Joshua Josephs, and so on and so forth. So let's look at the Caner grades as we wrap up a Monday show. Don't forget Twitter Tuesday coming up tomorrow. Quarterback, I mean, you get an A, right? I mean, Hendon Hooker, super quick, super efficient. You look at those offensive numbers, quarterback play overall gets an A. Would have been an A+, but again, I thought Joe Milton was kind of sloppy there. But Hendon Hooker's deep balls weren't great against UT Martin, but again, a lot of that I feel like is because, and this might sound silly, but you are so wide open. You are so wide open that maybe it caused you to double clutch just a little bit. Whatever the case, quarterback gets an A. Running game, I mean, you ran for over 200 yards, right? I mean, it was by committee in a game like this. Thought Jabari Small was efficient. Thought Dylan Sampson looked okay. Thought Jalen Wright didn't even get a whole lot of carries. Again, Jalen Wright only 6 carries on the day, but nonetheless, Tennessee gets an A. You run for over 200 yards, you do your job, you get an A. Tight ends get an A. The only thing I will say about the tight ends, as my mic continues to drop, and I apologize, the only thing I'll say about the tight ends that was a negative, Princeton Fant dropped what would have been a touchdown. Okay, he had 2 carries, 12 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 passing attempt, 66 yards, and a touchdown. Princeton Fant on the day, receiving, he had 2 catches for 17 yards and a drop touchdown. So you still get an A because of the dynamic of Princeton Fant in this football game, but could have been even better. Could have been even better. Tight ends get an A. You've got the wide receivers that are going to get an A in this football game because, again, Jalin Hyatt, Squirrel White, Ramel Keaton, thought all those guys performed very, very well. And then anytime you are 4 yards away from garnering over 700 yards of total offense in a football game, I don't care who you're playing, your offensive line gets an A++. So straight A's down the offensive side of the scorecard. Let's look over at defense, shall we? And again, a lot of different bodies, a lot of things to learn from. I thought the reserves, Josh Heupel said it after the game, I thought the reserves didn't play great football, but again, this is a lot of the first time they've ever played in college, making their season debuts. There were walk-ons in the secondary. I mean, it's kind of a mixed bag, right? I mean, they're not going to be perfect. So I thought the reserves, could have done a whole lot better. But anyway, defensive line gets a B. Get a sack from Tyree West. Thought Tyree West played a good football game. Thought Tyree West really did play a good football game. 7 quarterback hits on the football game. You get a B from the defensive line. Though the linebackers get a B. Solon Page kind of flashed a little bit. Jeremy Banks didn't play an awful lot. Aaron Beasley didn't play an awful lot. A lot of Elijah Herring, a lot of Caleb Perry. Linebackers get a B. Defensive backs, again, very much a mixed bag. There were some missed tackles back there. So I'm going to give a C to the defensive backfield just because it was kind of sloppy back there. But again, you're missing a ton of players in the defensive backfield. So it just kind of is what it is. Special teams, you get a B-. Probably should have given them a C, to be honest. I mean, the punt unit is just, thankfully, Tennessee's offense is fantastic because the punt unit is just not good this year. I mean, Paxton Brooks has not punted the football well at all, averaging 28 yards a punt on Saturday. The first one was shanked. The second one was a bad bounce, but still just not fantastic. So, and then McGrath was 1 of 2 for kicking field goals. Again, I think McGrath is a solid kicker. I know he was the hero last week, but 45 and above, it's a roller coaster. It really is with Chase McGrath, but so it is for so many other kickers around the college football. Then coaching, you get a B. You get in, you get out, you pad those stats, you run your offense with your reserves and all that. You got Joe Milton a lot of work, which I thought was important. So coaching will get a B in this football game. All right, that's going to do it here for this Monday edition of Locked On Vols. Can't thank you enough for hanging out with me here today. Tomorrow, we got Twitter Tuesday, so we'll answer any of your questions, your comments, your concerns on Tennessee. 7-0 are the Volunteers. And moving on to Kentucky this week. And I catch up with Lance Daw at some point with Locked On Kentucky. We talked with him at the SEC Media Days. If you guys remember him, we'll catch up with him. We'll talk to some more Kentucky people throughout the week as Tennessee prepares for the Wildcats to look and be 8-0 on the season. Again, for the first time since 1998. I'm Eric Kane, your host here at Locked On Vols. Can't thank you enough for hanging out with me here today. We will do it again tomorrow, of course. And I want to remind you guys about making Locked On Vols your first listen every single day. But for your second listen, check out the Locked On Sports Today. From games that matter to the biggest stories in sports for that day. Go beyond the box score and get behind the scenes with the local experts and insights only Locked On can provide. Locked On Sports Today, it's available on the app, YouTube, and wherever you find your podcast. And I promise I will figure out what the hell is wrong with my microphone. This is so very frustrating, but this has been Locked On Vols. Guys, be safe. We'll talk again tomorrow.